Right, the post I did the other day, I promised you I'd tell you about forky sticks. Well, there's a lot of forky sticks in here. And basically I'm going to knock a few of these out as walking sticks. I'm going to a demonstration come fair, come open day in a few weeks' time. And I'll take a few of these along. It's not going to be your traditional sort of bentwood walking sticks that go over like that. And they come up to about sort of waist high. They're going to be thumb sticks, which come up higher. The story I was told by my mum back in the 60s, was a state-enrolled nurse. But these used to be given out on the NHS for people with lower back problems. Because if you cut them about just under shoulder high, and you stick your thumb in there, basically they make you stand up straight rather than bend over, like a modern sort of aluminium stick would do. Also, you don't need to put an awful lot of pressure on them. Obviously you're limited by what your thumb can do. But to cut them out, they need to be quite pretty. You can see this one's got a lot of bark on the outside, but it's quite clean. So what I do with this one, once I get it home, is to actually wash it. And you basically use a flannel, and that would wash all this stuff off, wash all the rubbish off. And with a very sharp knife, I'd knock these out and then cut these off. These have just been cut with a bill hook, so that they're even. But you can see that the two sides are even. It's a little bit bent this way, but it kind of doesn't matter. You can get it so it's nice and comfortable. And if you take that out there, there's a little ridge in between the two where they join, where it makes extra tissue. You take that out with your very sharp knife, a very narrow bladed knife. That makes you a nice handhold for your thumb to go. So that's a thumbstick. You can put a ferrule on the end or just cut it off with a saw. And the important thing is, for each individual person, you cut it to the correct height for them, so it's bespoke. And obviously holding the camera in the right hand, because my left hand's all covered in cack. But usually you hold it in your right hand if you're right-handed, and then you can stump along using that as a steadier. So that's that. There's a lot more potentials here. So there's another one I've knocked off, and you can see that the bark is a different colour. Yeah, there's lots of variation, but in order to make a thumbstick, basically you take all of these off, and the fewer of these the better, so it needs to be nice and clean and pretty. Once it starts to dry out, you can treat it with a little bit of linseed oil, or even just ordinary vegetable oil, and that will make it nice and shiny. And it'll shine up anyway where your hand goes. This one here is not ideal, because you can see you've got one straight leg and one leg off at an angle. Ideally, like that other one, it needs to be symmetrical. The more even these are, the better. You see the one on the right, slightly smaller diameter. Obviously for a big guy, you'd use a bigger stick. And there's a nice one here. See him? And he's a nice blonde colour. So I'd knock him off, leave him fairly long, cut him there and there with a bill hook, and then take him with me when I go to the fairy open day thing. This one here, you can see it's nice and symmetrical. There's another branch in the middle. And then a lot of these, so that would take a lot of cutting out. So that one's a no. That probably wouldn't even make a 6-foot beam rod. So, on the hedge with him. This one here, see his big diameter? He's too big for a stick. But you'd knock him off here and here, and you'd make a little short clothes prop. Ideally, clothes prop should be longer. Clothes prop will last you typically 2 to 3 years, so it won't last forever. But yeah, it doesn't inverted commas cost anything like an aluminium one would, or let's say an aluminium one with a plastic top, which is quite common. This one here, you cut it there and there, but that's too narrow to get your thumb in. You can get that joint in. Then if you slip and fall, your thumb won't come out. You'll just sit on that that knuckle and do you a mischief. Ugh, I can't get it out now. This one here is the same, and again this bit's straight, that bit's off to the side. So most of the rest of these, apart from this one, you see him, will end up being cut into whatever I can get out of them in terms of beam poles. So closed prop, maybe another stick in that one I showed you last, and these two sticks here, or certainly that one, probably not that one. So, forky sticks. Last year I was using them to hoik the end of my layers up, but I don't think I'm going to get round to any layers this year. And I've been convinced by various people since I put that video out, the best way of doing your layers is not to keep the end on like we did last year, but to actually peg it down and then cut it off. And then it sprouts at the end where it's in the ground. Seems to work very well. Better take rate than I've got. Right, forky sticks. Thank you very much.